This is the Sunday stream opening song because the other song is copyrighted. La 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 la. Oh look, here comes Dog Cat Fox.
Hi, Sky.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Sunday stream. The stream I do on Sundays because Sunday is the day to stream on Sundays. Hope you're all doing well on this beautiful Sunday morning, or this slightly chilly, foggy morning where I am, but hey, who's counting? Yes, hope you're all doing well today. I had a very adventurous day yesterday in visiting my family for our combination Thanksmas celebration, if I can get that out this morning. We combine our Thanksgiving and our Christmas get-togethers in between both holidays to avoid all the rush and bustle and all of it. And it's very relaxing, and once we get all that out of the way, the rest of the month just feels like a vacation. And it was very nice. I got to see my mom and my dad, and we exchanged gifts, and we had a very yummy lunch, and lots of hugs and catching up on things. And got to spend time with Sister Scribe, both there and back again. And it was all around just a very nice day. But by the time I got home last night, I was very tired. And so I thought to myself, what shall I do for the Sunday stream? And as I started thinking about that, and so that's why it wasn't really prepped and ready until just this morning, which is where we are now. Here we are on the show. And who's joining me on this beautiful Sunday morning as we discuss interesting things in academia? We'll get to that in a second. Old Guy Gamer, good morning. Rotten Corpse, Tyrannus, Alexandrius, Tremeerlich, Somnamnul Nation, The Original Shroom, Keeverdam, Evil One, Mike R., who else is here? Mike Savage, Blarg, Scanner Daftly, RVA, DAR, A2P, Rah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Ken Elliott, good morning. Who else is here? Robert Pincus, Shadowclaw, Non-Vitae Rex. And I think that's everybody. If I missed you, or if you're lurking, or if you're in the future, good morning. And if I spot anybody in particular as things proceed, I'll try to say hello. So this morning, I thought, why not go into an established institution? Oftentimes I'll look at, panel discussions from various consultants on things, or from some organization I've never heard of before, or some obscure little firm or banking institution or something, whatever. But I came across this from the University of Illinois at Chicago, talking about racial equity. And boy, oh boy, look at that panel. We're not talking about like just one or two people just kind of talking to each other on a Zoom call. No, we're talking about a official on-stage panel discussion in front of a live studio audience. Man, you just don't see those very often these days. But you're seeing more of them now that we're moving laboriously out of the pandemic lockdown mode, and we're not having as many Zoom call presentations and panels, but actual live panels again. Those are my favorite. Those feel more organic. The sound quality is usually far more increased than somebody talking on a potato webcam. So here we are. They're going to be, so the official title of this, just to get the reference here, it is a conversation, advancing racial equity at the University of Illinois, Chicago. All right, so that's the official title. Now, a couple of editorial notes. First off, I know you're going to be very upset. I know you're going to be upset with me, but I cut off a very, very lengthy land acknowledgement at the beginning of this video. Yes, they went a long time to tell everybody how they're all standing upon the land of people that used to be there and no longer are there, and how guilty everybody should feel for it and that kind of thing. So there was that, took that out. Secondly, just as they started the panel discussion, the main speaker had indicated to him that his microphone wasn't working, when you can hear that it is working perfectly fine. So I cut out about a minute and a half worth of video where he is clumsily standing up from his chair. That's the guy right in the middle. And then moving over to the podium to set himself up to talk from the podium where the microphone is working, only to be told after he gets to the podium that the microphone is working, and then he shuffles his way back. So I cut all that out because it's nothing, and it was ridiculous and silly, and I don't know. Anyway, so those are my editorial notes. Otherwise, this presentation is not edited in any particular way. The full content of the panel discussion, presumably, is still intact. So that's what you have to look forward to here in that sense. Anybody else? Mr. Tickle Trunk, good morning. And I think Resolute Germ, good morning. And if I missed anybody, I apologize. But let's get into it. So this runs just under an hour. I'm only going to go for an hour and a half in real time unless there is some compelling reason to continue. We have a full spread of experts here, some wearing masks, some not, full audience, and I had to tweak the sound. The first part of the sound is not great, but once people start talking, it looks like things get better. Oh, anyway, enough of that. Let's get into it. Let's go.
First, welcome campus leaders who will be sharing more information about advancing racial equity activities and plans.
You guys hear that okay? I did boost the audio a bit because it was a little tinny at the podium. It gets better once the speakers actually start speaking. Also, if you'll direct your attention at some point over the course of the stream to the top of the chat box, there are the GoFundMe links there. Thank you, Keeverdam, from our friends, surprisingly enough, Angry Illinoisian, and as well, his kitten. And if you have a couple of bucks to spare, their friends and family could certainly use the help if you have it. Sounds okay, says Mr. Tickle Trunk. Sounds good to me. All right, well, let's go.
So I'd like to start with Dr. Javier Reyes, our interim chancellor. Dr. Amalia Payares, Vice Chancellor for Diversity, Equity, and Engagement, Dr. Bob Barish, Vice Chancellor for Health Affairs, Dr. Karen Colley, Interim Provost and Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs. We will also hear from Dr. Fred McCall, Associate Vice Chancellor for Student Engagement and Interim Dean of Students, Karen Bills, Associate Chancellor of the Office of Access and Equity. And we also welcome Dr. Mark Rosenblatt, Executive Dean and Professor from the College of Medicine today in light of some specific questions that were submitted about the college.
Oh my gosh, look at this. We got some major officials at the University of Illinois, Chicago here. Oh boy, I love it. I love it. I love it when it's all the people in charge of stuff so I can hear what the official line is on things.
And so at this time, I'm going to turn the mic over to our assembled leaders. We're going to start with Dr. Reyes, followed by Drs. Payares, Barish, and Colley. And we will then use some time after they have shared some remarks to take questions from the audience before hearing from the remaining leaders on the panel today.
Keeverdam, if I want to say Illinoisian, I'll say Illinoisian. That's all there is to it. See, someone here is trying to correct my pronunciation of things. All right, I've been saying angry Illinoisian since the Lords of the Night days, and it's not going to change now. So just, nah. There's that. It makes it unique. It makes it fun. Okay? Except I will correct people when they say Nevada instead of Nevada. I will do that.
So Dr. Reyes, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you very much, Angela. Oh, are we live?
Yeah, so that was the point at which somebody was like, I can't hear you, even though you could hear him perfectly. Anyway, this little blank space is the part at which he was fumbling around for a minute and a half.
Very good. There we go now. So thank you everyone for coming today. Thank you for your patience as we work through this trials and tribulations over here. But part of my role today is also to answer the question of what is this meeting about?
Yes.
What are we trying to accomplish here today? And in my mind, this meeting is about three interrelated topics.
Okay.
First, as I mentioned during the Student Affairs Alignment conversation, I see these campus conversations as a venue where we can speak openly, respectfully, and productively about important topics that impact campus-wide and that are of great importance for us to achieve our goal.
Okay, well, let me give you a baseline as to where my mind is at on this. So, advancing racial equity on campus. Well, the first thing to remember is that the University of Illinois Chicago is a public institution. It accepts federal funds, and as such, it falls under the restrictions of federal guidelines and the Civil Rights Act when it comes to institutions that accept federal funding or public funding and what they can or cannot do in discriminating on the basis, specifically in this case, of race. Okay, so that's the first thing to remember, is that this institution accepts federal funding. So it is disallowed from discriminating on the basis of race. Now, you also have to take into account the existence of affirmative action, which kind of does an end run around the federal law and has done so for many, many, many years. Affirmative action is currently under question in front of the Supreme Court. The outcome of that particular case, I'm very interested to see, but I don't know if that's going to come up here or not. I don't know if it's going to be talking about affirmative action or what they mean by racial equity, so we'll find out there. But beyond the federal law, there's just the general principle that I grew up with of not assessing people on the basis of race. All right. Even if it's not a legal thing, just on the logic thing. It's like it says nothing about a person and so on. So I'm curious to know where this public institution, this federally funded institution, what they have to say when it comes to how they mean to achieve whatever their goals are when it comes to racial equity. All right. What those goals are and the methods by which they mean to achieve them. That's what I'm particularly interested in hearing.
As such, I want to say, and I think I channel the voice of our students, our faculty, and our staff when I say that at UIC, that UIC champions a culture in which there is no room for racism of any form in our classrooms, in our hallways, in our UIC community.
Okay, so there is no room for racism of any kind. Okay, so evaluating people on the basis of race, discriminating people on the basis of race is not allowed at UIC. Got it.
To move and solidify this as the campus-wide culture, we must all commit to oppose racism and address it in all its forms in order to ensure that all members of our UIC community feel welcome, included, and are able to achieve their full potential. We expect all our UIC to understand that this, and also to understand this, and also to understand that when our commitment to racial equity is questioned or violated, we need to address it swiftly and effectively.
Okay, I'd be curious to know if you have an example of such.
In some cases, and even recently, our ability and actions seem to be slow and impacted by protocols and policies, many of which are needed for due process, but that we need to work on to make them more effective.
Okay, so yes, so you care about due process, but things are going too slow. Okay.
And as I will comment on later, we're working on them. Second, we want to provide some updates on important initiatives that our different teams and offices across campus have been working on to advance racial equity.
Okay.
Third, this is an open town hall. We also want to start talking about how we cannot continue to rely on initiatives or programs that are seen as fragmented efforts. For example, we're working with student affairs and the success units to mobilize our commitment to the Access 2030 plan to increase the number of graduates from underrepresented groups by 50% by the end of the decade.
You want to increase the number of graduates from underrepresented groups by the end of the decade, 50%. So you have a racial quota you're meaning to achieve. Okay.
This will include students from disadvantaged backgrounds, ethnic and racial, rural and urban.
Oh, okay. Disadvantaged backgrounds. So circumstances, and not necessarily skin color, but also skin color. Okay.
With an emphasis on our Black and African American students. Looking to all our students, including our DACA students, our international students, recognizing clearly the needs of our grad and professional students, taking a close look at how we are allocating our financial aid resources across the spectrum, not only financial resources, but also thinking about space and support teams for these students.
Right. There's no room for racism at UIC. Let me tell you how we're going to break down our distribution of resources and our focus on outcomes on the basis of race. Got it.
And many of you have asked us to start looking beyond our current students for a pipeline of students, reaching out to the 7th through 9th grade and really opening the doors to UIC at an earlier age.
Yeah.
We have worked with faculty leadership from Global Asian Studies to create an Asian American support unit, working closely with faculty in the GLASS program, creating a sustainable path and deeply connected to the faculty efforts for an Asian American resource and the Asian American Resource Cultural Center to ensure that we serve our Asian American students better.
Oh, so you're currently not serving your Asian American students that well? Why not? What's different about Asian American students that would cause them to have worse outcomes or treatment?
We're strategizing with NASP and our DAI leadership to explore and the sustainable efforts to better serve our Native American students, faculty and staff, and our community.
Oh, are you not serving your Native American faculty and staff well? And why not? Why wouldn't you be?
We're working with a national alliance of 21 HSI R1 universities to launch a large collaborative grant efforts designed to support the growth of Latino students pursuing degrees in sciences and humanities. We want to elevate activities and programming of our other cultural centers, the Arab American Cultural Center, Disability Cultural Center, Gender and Sexuality Center, and our Women's Leadership Resource Center.
Right. So divvying everybody up on the basis of race or gender or orientation. Okay.
You will hear about efforts like these ones today. These are necessary activities, but if they continue to be seen as individual efforts, then they're not sufficient for us to achieve our goal. All of these are great examples of how we're making UIC one of the most diverse institutions, but we now work to also making it one of the most equitable and inclusive institutions.
By classifying everybody first and foremost on things that say nothing about their academic ability or necessarily their personal circumstance otherwise. Okay.
To do so, we need a campus-wide coordinated practices and aligned messaging and platforms that showcase and fuel our culture. The culture I know exists at UIC, a culture that empowers equity and inclusion and rejects racism of any kind.
Except for apparently a culture that disadvantages Native Americans and Asian Americans explicitly, that you need to now correct for or something. I'm confused. Are you against racism or are you for benevolent racism? Because I'm getting mixed signals here.
To take the next step, we need venues like this one, where we can present updates on how these are part of the campus-wide level strategies, part of the collective UIC mindset. Venues like this one, where we can also hear questions and ideas that our faculty, our students, and our staff have. Hear what concerns you have. What are the things that we think the campus community knows we're doing, but that in reality, they're not being noticed, they're not having the impact we think they should, or that they're not hitting the right mark. I believe that we can thrive if we don't change some of our practices, policies, and protocols.
Okay, well, I hope to hear as things proceed what practices, policies, and protocols are being changed, how they were operating before, and how you propose to change them or update them to improve whatever it is you're attempting to improve.
Provost Colley and I are working closely with the Vice Provost for Faculty Affairs, the Vice Chancellor for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, the Vice Chancellor for Health Affairs, HR, OAE, Legal, and the Faculty Senate to strengthen our policies to address situations of discrimination and harm in and out of the classroom.
Oh, discrimination. Okay, well, I'm particularly interested to hear, granted that you tell me anything, about your policies in regards to hiring staff, faculty, and so on when it comes to DEI. Because, man, if you want to talk about a place where discrimination is rampant, DEI and hiring, yeah.
Our hallways and across our institution, always having fair, transparent, and accountable due processes, but looking to be more responsive, more efficient, more effective on our policies, protocols, and actions and practices to respond to the incidents that emerge on our campus between or on matters related to racism, bias, harassment, bullying, discrimination, and harm. This work is happening at the same time that we're working with our Office of Access and Equity to have clearer processes, policies, and follow-up, as well as better levels of resources to carry the important work that they need to do.
Right.
Over the spring semester, we will be reporting on these conversations, any changes that emerge from them, and the actions and implementations plans that would follow. In my opinion, we are at a point in time in which we can address both of the interrelated points I mentioned above. with the efforts of Dr. Payares' office and the work that all the academic departments have put forward in their ARE reports, the Advancing Racial Equity reports.
Oh, ARE reports. Oh, okay. I was like, ARE reports, like, oh, what? Advancing Racial Equity, ARE, R. Are you serious?
We can see how we can provide resources to initiatives that would start building both individual efforts at the departmental college level, but also bring campus-wide level perspective and see how we can field programs that would benefit multiple departments, multiple colleges, multiple groups of people.
Yes.
We need to do this in such a way that we showcase the culture of diversity that we know we have on this campus, but we will do so in a way that brings the messaging together and empowers that culture.
I want to know what a culture of diversity means. I want to know what that is supposed to mean, because the way the word diversity has been leveraged in these initiatives and processes, as I've seen in other institutions, is not a positive one if you want to downplay racism and discrimination. Because the definition of diversity necessitates prejudice, necessitates discrimination on the basis primarily of aesthetics. So if you have a culture of diversity at your campus, I don't know if that's actually anti-racist.
Which will still benefit from individual efforts and programs, but it's not only going to rely on them.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much.
Yay. Golf clap.
Thank you, Chancellor. As the Chief Diversity Officer at the university, I've been in this role for 5 years, and I have to quote the writer that I always go to.
Is it, okay, Angela Davis or W.E.B. Du Bois? That's my, I'm guessing. Could be somebody else. Or wait, what's his name? I suddenly forget his name. Okay, I won't even try to guess, but, or the name that I'm forgetting. Okay, never mind.
When things are really hard, and has been motivating me for all these years, and that is James Baldwin.
That's what it was. Dang, that's the name I was trying to remember. Dang it. If only I'd said it out loud, it'd sound like a genius. Oh, wait. Oh, yeah. James Baldwin, Angela Davis, or W.E.B. Du Bois. Those are the three that always come up. It was on the tip of my tongue, but I didn't want to waste more time with any dead air. Oh, well. I could have looked like a genius there for a second.
And he said, not everything that is faced can be changed, but nothing can be changed until it is faced.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a lot to face.
Uh-huh.
We have been, for the past 2 years, since the mobilization for Black Lives in 2020, been engaged in a process of looking at ourselves, looking at our institution.
Yeah, well, there's also Black Lives Matter, the quote-unquote nonprofit that's been enriching themselves with millions and millions and millions of dollars for the last several years. But anyway, if this is a campus that does not deal in racism or discrimination or prejudice, why do you bring up one particular race as your concern?
And understanding that race is not only some interpersonal thing, but it is something that is embedded in institutions sometimes.
Okay, such as, and what is the case at UIC in that sense?
So the issue being more than something happened or somebody said something is somebody discriminated against somebody. It's a question that becomes, what happens then?
Okay, and you know that microphone's not going anywhere, right? You can take your hand off of it, but okay.
Is there silence? Is there fear? Or does something happen? Does the institution respond? And I want UIC to be the kind of institution that responds everywhere.
To what? Give me an example. You've been there 5 years. Give me an incident. Give me a success story, or give me a failure. You can learn from failure too.
And that's what we're working towards.
So you're still working towards that after 5 years. Okay.
Compositional diversity is a term I like to use a lot because UIC is often known, and I'm proud of the fact that we are very diverse. We could be more diverse, especially, and we are working towards that.
Okay, define diverse and detail how you are working towards achieving more diverse. And for those of you listening at home, there's a card up right now that says achieving culture change through addressing racial equity, or ARE. All right.
But we do have a lot more compositional diversity than many other universities.
By what metric? What are you measuring to make that assessment? Might I ask?
Especially R1 universities. But that does not equate to inclusion and equity. And that has been a really important mission for our office. How do we make UIC equitable?
Well, here's the thing. I hate to tell you this, and this is always something that I try to underscore. It doesn't matter how many extra words or concepts you add after the original sin of discriminating people on the basis of their aesthetics. It doesn't improve the matter. Diversity, equity, inclusion, justice, belonging. You can tail all of it with all the fancy, nice sounding concepts that you want, but it always comes back to that first one and how you define that first one and how you mean to achieve that first one. Because if the root of the entire process is we're going to populate our campus, our workforce on the basis of aesthetics, first and foremost, everything else is irrelevant. It doesn't matter how nice you make it after you've discriminated against people on the basis of their appearance, first and foremost. I don't know if you realize that. It seems something that goes by the wayside. It's like, well, not only about diversity, but we have to focus on inclusion and equity. Inclusion and equity is the fruit of the poison tree at that point.
When we know that different minoritized and historically underserved populations have very different access to resources. They have different needs, right?
If you say so, I can look at someone and just on the basis of their appearance or knowledge of their ethnicity, I can know the condition of their life and their needs. Okay, tell me more.
So how are we equitable? How do we make sure that we're equitable?
I don't know.
How do we make sure that we're inclusive? Are we really listening to all the voices?
I don't know.
Are we engaging with them?
You tell me.
Are they all at the table?
Oh.
That's our goal. Our goal is to be equitable. Our goal is to be inclusive, and it's not easy. But
it's not easy, really. You want to have, quote unquote, all the voices at the table. Well, what distinguishes one voice from another? Well, obviously what they look like, right? You can't have two different voices that come out of two different skin colors, obviously, right? Listen to what you are saying.
But that is something that I think we value and we want to move towards. And the last thing I'll say about this general kind of reflection on where we have been and where we want to go is that to do this, it can't just be, it has to be everywhere. It can't just be from the top. It has to be in every department, in every space, in every college. So if we're really talking about changing our culture, changing our systems, then we need to talk about how do we achieve change?
I am dying to know how you mean to achieve change. What is the current state of affairs? What do you wish they were? And how do you propose to get there? That's what I want to hear. Not any of this high-minded stuff. And I know these are just introductions so far, and hopefully we'll get into the meat of things shortly. But yes, how do you propose to do these things at a federally funded academic institution? That's what I want to know. That is what I'm waiting to hear about.
How do we achieve change in all our spaces?
I don't know.
Right? And so that's, I think, the guiding framework for me and for all of us who have been working on this has been something that I'll just talk about 4 things that are really, really important. And that's what we're engaged in right now.
Okay.
Having a plan. Having a baseline. Engaging in action, and finally having accountability.
Okay. Are you going to give us details of those 4 items? I'm particularly interested in the plan, and lastly, in the accountability. I always hear about accountability. It is rare that I ever hear anything detailing exactly what that looks like. If someone does not discriminate appropriately for the sake of the quotas being aimed for, How do you hold someone accountable for that?
So plan, baseline, action, accountability.
Wow, you've just outlined nothing. The basics of an organizational mission statement.
Plan has meant that not only does the university have a plan as to what it's doing, and many of the initiatives the chancellor was talking about, and Provost Colley and Vice Chancellor Barish are talking about, are part of those plans and part of those initiatives. But they happen also at the local level. Every department has a plan.
Would you like to detail one of these plans? Actually, first, would you describe the problem that you were attempting to address, and then tell me what the plan is to address that problem?
And that's really important, because how can I hold you accountable for something if you don't have a plan?
Yes, okay. Details, please.
So the first thing is a plan. And that plan means looking into yourself and saying, well, where are we?
Oh, yeah, where are you? What is going on? What is the status of things now? Where do you want them to be? And what is your plan to make that happen? Please.
And that is what I call the baseline, right? Where are we? Where are we? Where is each department? So many departments and colleges have been doing surveys and looking at, I've been reading all these advancing racial equity reports. By the way, there's about 97 of them, the process we've had in several dean summaries. And I actually like when I read a department saying, we don't really know. We're going to start doing a survey because we want to hear from the students as to what will make them feel welcome and like they belong here.
So these are surveys about feelings? I thought these were surveys to achieve diversity. What?
I actually think that's very honest and very necessary, right? So we do that baseline, but we don't expect something of departments that we don't do ourselves.
Wait. If I survey students in one semester and then a whole bunch of people graduate, and I go off the basis of what some students said they felt in one instance, but now I've got a whole other crop of students, maybe that's going to change within 6 months. You're going to base a plan on a moving target of how people feel about things? Okay.
In my office, we've been engaged both in an equity dashboard, along with many other initiatives of different units, to know where our students are. How are things going with them in terms of inclusion, engagement, achievement, access? But we're now doing a campus-wide survey of our faculty and staff. The first one in 12 years will happen in next spring.
To ask what? What are you asking them for? I mean, if the survey says there's no problems, what do? You have a dashboard? Okay, what do you track on this dashboard? By what metrics are you measuring these things? How do you measure belonging? How do you measure inclusion? And most specifically for my interests, how do you measure diversity on your dashboard? And then how do you estimate what your plan is to achieve goals from that information?
So we don't know where we are. If we want to change, we need to know where we are. So
wait, you've been doing this for 5 years. You've been in this position for 5 years. And as of this talk, you do not know where you are? Department to department? Campus to campus? Wait. Okay. All right. Okay. You said it.
Can then find out if what we are doing makes a difference.
Wait, you don't know if what you're doing makes a difference after 5 years? What have you been doing? I mean, okay, where were you when you took this job? Where were things at? Insofar as whatever metrics you are currently using to measure success, where were you at 5 years ago? What have you done in the interim? And where are you at now in comparison to those original numbers? But as of right now, you don't know where you are. You don't know what's going on. Only now you're going to have a campus-wide survey after 12 years. You've been there 5 years. You didn't institute a campus-wide survey in the last 5 years. What? Okay.
The third thing is action. And action, of course, requires all kinds of things. It requires capacity. It requires resources. It requires support.
Yeah.
And those are the conversations we're having with leadership around once we are finished with this planning process and we're practically done.
Wait. No. Wait, stop. You don't know where you are, but you're still in the middle of the planning process. So you don't even know the extent of the problems, if there are problems to be addressed. But in the course of that, you're still trying to finalize your plans to address a problem that may or may not be a problem, or to a magnitude which you have no idea of its measure. Yeah.
What? What is that? What the fuck is that?
5 years you've been at this. Okay.
And moving forward, let's see where our departments and colleges want to go and how we can support it with resources and other forms of support. And finally,
Maybe you should wait to make the plan until you have that information. I'm just saying maybe you should have an idea of where things are at before you make a plan to address whatever the problems are. If you do both of those things simultaneously, I have a feeling it's relatively inefficient. And you've had 5 years. What have you been doing in the last 5 years?
accountability.
Accountability.
Our leaders here are committed to starting this, this next evaluation phase to actually, in all their evaluations of leaderships of deans, to ask, where are you in your advancing racial equity?
Okay. And what metrics do you expect to receive back from the deans in reporting on their success, failure, whatever? What measurements do you expect of the deans to give you in that process?
And they have those reports in front of them.
Yeah.
And the deans can also tell their department heads, can also ask them, where are you in your plan?
Okay. What is the edict to the deans? What are the goals the deans are tasked to fulfill? Right? What is it you expect the deans to achieve in this process?
We all know what your plan is now.
What?
And we want to see where it's at. That is accountability. And the last thing I'll say is accountability.
No, that's not accountability. What? Wait, I got to back up. I'm sorry. I got to listen to that again.
Requires resources. It requires support. And those are the conversations we're having with leadership around once we are finished with this planning process and we're practically done and moving forward, let's see where our departments and colleges want to go and how we can support it with resources and other forms of support. And finally, accountability. Our leaders here are committed to starting this, this next evaluation phase to actually, in all their evaluations of leaderships of deans, to ask, where are you in your advancing racial equity? And they have those reports in front of them. And the deans can also tell their department heads, can also ask them, where are you in your plan? We all know what your plan is now. And we want to see where it's at. That is accountability. And
no, that's just... So the deans are in charge of achieving some nebulous and so far undefined goals in regards to diversity, equity, inclusion, and so on. Okay. But they can also ask their departments what their plans are to achieve those things, and that's accountability. No, holding someone accountable. Either you achieve this goal or there is a consequence. That's accountability. You take an action that either falls within or without the guidelines of whatever it is, and then you're taken to task either for achieving or not achieving that thing, or for violating or for not violating that. What is the consequence? What are the deans tasked with achieving? And if they do not achieve said thing, how do you intend to hold them accountable for that with consequence? Nothing of what you said makes any sense. Thank you, Mr. Tickletrunk. Don't know what direction, but let's march forward. Yeah, we'll make up the plan as we try to determine what the problem is. And also accountability is reporting and then asking the people that are subordinate to you what their plan is to achieve the thing that I, as the dean, am responsible for ultimately, that's accountability.
And the last thing I'll say is accountability also comes not just from the leadership, but from the constituencies, from our faculty, students, and staff
What?
who
How?
want UIC to be a place not just where they survive, but where they thrive. They can say to their leadership, to their department heads, hey, what's going on? What's going on with the account, with the plan?
And conceivably, they could vote with their wallets by no longer attending your school if they're not achieving the things that they want, whether it's rational or otherwise. That would be accountability after a fashion, if that's what you're talking about, but I don't know what you're talking about. I'm filling in the blanks, trying to make sense of this.
What have you been able to do? And that to me is one of the most important forms of accountability.
No, that's not accountability. Okay. Asking questions. All right. Holding people to task. All right. But what is the stick? Right? If they don't achieve the things, whatever they are, what do the students and faculty, what leverage do they have to hold the person in charge accountable? Do they get to vote on their salary? Do they get some kind of method by which to impeach this person so they lose their job? Right? What is the Damocles sword hanging over the head of the people in charge of these things that the students or staff have some kind of control over, or that the people in charge of them have some kind of control over? What is the pitfall of not achieving the goal? That's what you have to describe. That's what accountability means.
Those are the people that I think we should be thinking about, our students, our staff, our faculty. Are we really able to deliver what we've committed to?
What have you committed to doing? What have you committed to doing? You just told us you have no idea where you're at, so you have no idea what to do to solve the problems that you have no idea what they are. What have you committed to?
Through our plans.
What
And our
plans?
resources.
What the?
So I'll stop there. It's
Thank you.
a huge endeavor. And I'm grateful to see in this room many people who are part of that endeavor. And I ask all of you to participate because we rely on all of us. It is us who need to engage in this change at every level. Thank you.
Yeah. How have you been engaging over the last 5 years where you're sitting on this panel in front of this audience right now, telling everybody that A, you have no idea what's going on, B, you don't have any plans to address what's going on, and also accountability is apparently just knowing things or something. Okay.
Thank you.
Yay.
Well, good afternoon. People hear me? Okay.
You have to put it closer.
A little closer. Okay. Good afternoon.
Yep.
All right. And once again, welcome to this important conversation.
Okay, if they tell you to get closer to the mic, dude, you need to get closer to the mic and not keep looking down at your notes. So pull the thing closer and aim it at your mouth.
I'm Dr. Bob Barish, and as the Vice Chancellor for Health Affairs, my office has oversight over UIC's academic health enterprise, UI Health. But what does this mean exactly?
I don't know.
Move it closer.
Yeah, move it closer, dude, up
How's
to your
this?
mouth.
Better. Okay.
Stop turning away from the mic. I know, trust me. It took me a long time. It took some sort of like a microphone discipline in doing public speaking, but I can't imagine this is your first panel discussion. Eat the microphone until somebody says back off. That's usually the best way to go. Go in as close as you can and find out where that sweet spot is. And then stick there. Stop turning away from the mic.
So essentially, UI Health harnesses the academic and training excellence of our 7 health science colleges and the collective research strength of the university
Okay.
to inform, discover, and innovate healthcare for our patients across Illinois and beyond.
Oh, look, there's the there's the mayor of Chicago. There she is, Lori Lightfoot. It took me a second to recognize her there. Yeah, okay.
This deliberate integration of our health science colleges, the hospital and clinics, the Mile Square Health Center, the largest urban academic federally qualified health center network in the United States,
No.
the University of Illinois Cancer Center, and more, enhances our ability to address the complex medical, environmental, and cultural issues that we face in healthcare.
Okay. In what way?
In this effort, we are committed to the pursuit of health equity, and the connection and training of a wide spectrum of diverse healthcare professions.
Okay. Define health equity, and what do you mean by diverse in this context?
Designing accessible healthcare solutions and making important discoveries that benefit the health and wellness of our communities. So during the pandemic,
Yes.
the Office of the Vice Chancellor for Health Affairs convened an anti-racism task force
Oh, great.
consisting of representatives from across the academic and clinical health enterprises, which was tasked with creating an inventory of current efforts, assessing and then making actionable recommendations on how we can better improve our diversity, equity, and inclusion across UI Health.
Okay. And what did you come up with?
In addition to drafting an anti-racism statement, which we are adopting, this task force prepared a briefing with short and long-term recommendations.
Okay.
A primary recommendation was the development of a new role, the Director of Health Affairs Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion.
Okay. So you created a chief diversity officer for your health department. Great. More bureaucracy. To do what?
We are pleased to announce that after a national search, Adriana Black from the University of Chicago has recently accepted the role, which will report jointly to Health Affairs and the University Diversity Office to my colleague to my right, Amalia. And Adriana starts next Monday, December 5th.
Great. You just created a position to do what? How will this address the issues? What goals will this new position have to achieve? What are the responsibilities and what are the accountabilities? Are you going to tell us that, or was it just like, let's make a position with a fancy sounding title that makes it look like we're doing something about this? Because that's often what I think chief diversity officers are there for.
So what have we tasked Adriana with?
Mm-hmm.
What will she focus on?
Yes.
Anti-racism.
Which means what? What is the outcome of anti-racism look like? Do you even know the definition of anti-racism from the master of the subject, Ibram X. Kendi? Do you know what it means?
And social justice initiatives related to DEI education.
Anti-racism and social justice. Boy, oh boy. Those sound like definitive goals. How are you going to measure success in both of these areas?
Cultural programming for students, faculty, and staff.
Cultural programming. Can you think of anything that sounds more insidious, more 1984-ish? Cultural programming. Oh boy. Again, what does that look like? What are your goals in anti-racism? Right? What are your goals in social justice? What are your goals in cultural programming? How do you measure success in these three things?
Curricular design. Faculty, student, staff recruitment, and retention.
Oh, okay. Well, tell me about the recruitment aspect of it. How does this all apply to recruitment? What filters are you putting up to achieve your unstated goals in recruitment numbers?
As well as professional development among the academic healthcare delivery enterprise. She's got a lot to deal with.
Yeah. Could you detail exactly what your goals are? And I understand she hasn't started yet, so it's up to her to propose the plan and the solution, which may or may not happen at the same time when she's assessing the problem, as we've already seen. But how do you imagine this to go? Where do you want to get to? I mean, there must be a problem that she is meant to address, right? So you can state now where things are at and where you need things to go. And then, of course, it'll be her responsibility to get you there. So you're going to tell us about that now, right? You're going to assess for us the current status of things and what you'd ideally like to be at in the future, right?
Another recommendation of the task force is to review physical space opportunities to support inclusion efforts. I'm pleased to announce, with Adriana joining the team on Monday, and in partnership with the Vice Chancellor for Diversity, Equity, and Engagement and the Dean of the Libraries. We have invested in the development of a 2,000 square foot multicultural space in the Library of the Health Sciences.
Multicultural space. Why not just have it be a public space? What distinguishes one space from another as far as being multicultural?
To better engage our health science students and employees and offer needed support. I believe this is the first time on the West Campus that we'll have this space.
Wait. What makes a space multicultural versus a space that is otherwise just open to the public? If there's no filter to who can occupy a particular space, then it is also by definition multicultural, is it not? Or am I missing something? Are you going to explain? I doubt it. What are you applauding? You didn't even tell us, what does that mean? What does it mean? What does a multicultural space mean? If you're talking about equity, if you're talking about inclusion, if you're talking about diversity, the best way you can achieve that is to have zero filters, right? Anybody can show up. So how are you going to, how does this determine to be a multicultural space versus a park? I mean, what do you mean?
This well-appointed suite of rooms will support cultural programming as well as provide lounge, study, and meeting space for the UIC Health Sciences community.
What? Oh, again? Okay, I don't even know why I bother asking the question.
We expect this to open in February of 2023, so not too far away.
Okay, so you're basically just taking existing spaces, existing lounge rooms and classrooms and lecture halls and things, and just rebranding them as these whatever multicultural spaces, whatever that means. Okay, because there's no way you could achieve that. You're not building new space, right? Unless maybe I'm missing something. Are you constructing a new building and you're going to have it ready in 2023, which is only a couple months away? Or
so now, in the interest of time,
yeah,
I'll address some of the questions received from the UIC community about how we, as an academic health enterprise, are addressing racial equity and inclusion.
Thank goodness.
So UI Health is dedicated to the pursuit of health equity.
Uh-huh. Are you going to define health equity for us by any chance?
It is our mission.
Uh-huh.
As we continue to focus activities and attention on this effort, we have several significant indicators that we continue to move into the right direction.
Okay, what are those indicators?
UI Health is expanding throughout the city and state in impactful ways.
Like?
Working directly with the communities that we serve, we have recently opened the 55th and Pulaski Health Collaborative. The collaborative promotes health equity in Chicago's Gage Park and West Elson communities by providing comprehensive specialty health care services and is the first of many healthcare transformation collaboratives funded by HFS.
Okay, so you're bringing healthcare services to different parts of the city that otherwise maybe don't have access to it, or it's farther away, or not as financially feasible. Okay, all right, good. These are open to the public, right? Not just any specific, demographics, right?
The collaborative also includes activities of UI College of Applied Health Sciences, which will provide physical therapy, occupational therapy, and very importantly, nutritional services.
Okay.
And the Office of UIC Engagement and Neighborhood Health Partnerships, which supports engagement and oversees an integrated care coordination model to help address social and structural determinants of health.
In what way? I mean, expanding healthcare or the accessibility to healthcare is, barring some other qualifiers, a good thing. So good. Places in the city or in the area that otherwise don't have access to basic clinic, medicine, clinical medicine, or just, basic healthcare. Okay, good. What does that have to do? If you mean health equity as in more people have access to healthcare, full stop. Okay, good. Why does that require a chief diversity officer?
Similarly, UI Health Mile Square Primary and Immediate Care Center and the Healthy Lifestyle Hub which was an effort spearheaded by the Greater Auburn Gresham Development Corporation, fills a gap by providing available care to adult and pediatric primary care, women's health care, pregnancy and prenatal care, behavioral health, substance abuse, HIV, dental care, preventative care, and pharmacy services. Now, if you look to the slide, you'll see that the mayor cut the ribbon for this.
Yeah, great.
She was very emotional.
I'm
She
sure.
actually began crying.
Oh, well, Lori Lightfoot and her emotions are really my main concern. Okay, so in my mind for a second, okay, I was thinking of something like a map of Chicago. Right? And on this map, you have pins put in the map where all the hospitals and clinics are located in the city, right? And then you look at this map and you say, okay, what parts of this map is there a radius from one clinic to the next greater than like 10 miles or something, or 7 miles, some distance, right? And then you find those areas in the city where if someone lives here, they have to travel this many miles to get to any kind of medical care. And then you say, we want to try to reduce the travel time, the distance, and increase the accessibility of medical care to as many people in the city as possible. So where would be the most viable places in the city to open new clinics to service more people? That'd be, and again, I am not a city planner, I'm not a healthcare expert or anything else, but just in my layman's mind's eye, that's sort of what I think of when I think about where shall we and how many shall we attempt to open in new clinics in a city or urban space, right? Okay, that's my first thought. So if that's what they're doing effectively, great. You just look at distance of the population, regardless of race or anything else. It's just like there are people. Doesn't matter what they look like. They're people that will likely need medical attention at some point. So why not close the distance and increase the possibilities of having that attention when people need it? If that's what they're talking about here, great, fine. What does any of that have to do with a DEI officer or any of this stuff?
I said, if you had told me that UIC and UI Health would be in this community, I never would have believed you. So we are making changes in a good way. And we're hoping to move further south into the Austin community as well.
Okay.
So additionally, recent construction like the new specialty care building is UI Health's latest achievement in the pursuit of health equity, $200 million public-private partnership that opened on September 26th.
Could you please define health equity for me? I don't know what that means in this context. I don't know what you mean by it. You know, that'll really tell me, at least in the broad strokes, what it is you're attempting to achieve. I mean, I can do spelling bee context clues from the two words together, but I don't know what that means to you as far as a goal.
It's anticipated to serve between 600 and 800 people per day.
Good.
It's also made a substantial contribution to the local workforce and economy, and around 500 people were employed throughout the construction of the building. And once fully operational, it will create more than 100 full-time jobs.
Good.
The specialty care building is a state-of-the-art facility for our patients, faculty, and staff, providing more access to high-quality care for our communities.
Great.
We also invite you to see the welcome atrium, the $20 million welcome atrium that will be opening very soon.
$20 million for a welcome atrium.
2.5 stories. And why did we do this?
Why did you spend $20 million on a two-story atrium? I honestly don't know. Why did you do that?
Why did we create this incredible environment when our patients come in to see us?
Because you don't know how to spend effectively?
We did it because it says to our patients, our staff, or faculty, or students that you matter.
No, it says that aesthetics matter. You spent $20 million on a two-story entry atrium? Why did you spend $20 million on doctors? Why did you spend $20 million on opening up smaller clinics in different places? You're proud of spending $20 million on a two-story welcome atrium. Are you nuts? Like, Man, if somebody handed me $20 million and said, improve people's medical lifestyles, the last thing, it wouldn't even occur to me to think, oh, how about a 2-story welcome atrium? What the hell?
Our facility should be like any other great facility in the city of Chicago and beyond.
What, how does wait. Like any other facility. Oh, so does every other facility have a $20 million 2-story welcoming atrium? Jesus.
We're very, very proud of that. And we hope that you get a chance to see this soon.
Hey, if people don't see a 2-story, $20 million welcoming atrium, you're obviously doing something wrong. That, of everything I've heard so far, that is the most shocking thing to me. $20 million on an atrium. How many doctors could you have employed? How much medicine could you have purchased? How much equipment could you have invested in? How many separate clinics could you have opened with $20 million? I don't know the answer to these questions, but I'll tell you what. The number is larger than 0 if you spent all of it on an atrium.
Last year, UI Health was selected as the first health system in Chicago to receive funding from Blue Cross Blue Shield Illinois.
And spend it on a $20 million atrium.
Over 3 years, UI Health will receive $9 million in funding to expand its efforts to improve diversity among healthcare providers.
Oh, and how do you intend to do that? And, well, $9 million. They're going to give you $9 million. Okay, well, that buys out, almost half of what you spent on the atrium.
And to reduce the health disparities experienced by patients,
How?
Members of communities of color, and other communities that disproportionately experience poor health outcomes.
How? How will you achieve that with this $9 million? What is this $9 million going to do to buy that outcome?
The funding will be used
Yes.
to both expand current programs and launch new initiatives ranging from investments in data collection and informatics systems to the development of an anti-bias and anti-racism program.
Way to tell us nothing about what you intend to do or how you intend to do it. But if you're going to apply anti-racism ideology to the process, you're going to apply racist ideology to the process. I don't know if you realize that.
We're also proud to say that the Human Rights Campaign, let me repeat that, the Human Rights Campaign honored the University of Illinois Hospital with a score of 100% on their 2022 Healthcare Equality Index for its implementation of LGBTQ+ policies and practices.
Okay. I don't know what that's supposed to mean to me. Thank you, A2P. I don't have $20 million, only $2 for a welcoming atrium. Thank you, A2P. Your $2 means a lot. 20 million apparently doesn't mean much to these guys. 20 million. How is that not a gigantic scandal? Admittedly, I don't live in Chicago. Maybe it is. Maybe somebody did do a news story on this. But if nobody else has heard about this, that should be an amazing scandal of wasteful spending, especially when they're talking about the health of communities and citizens. It's good gravy.
And transgender inclusive healthcare benefits.
Okay. And how do you define transgender? Who gets those benefits and for what? And by the way, and I hate that I have to ask this question, at least rhetorically, because I really do, but I wonder, and I'm sure it's something that can be found out. I just didn't occur to me till just now. What is UIC's policy, especially the medical side of things, on adolescent transgender surgery? That came up in a TEDx a few weeks ago, and it's come up in other places since then. And I don't know the answer to this question. I'd be curious to know what their philosophy, policy, et cetera, is on that subject, given that they're talking about healthcare outcomes for transgendered individuals.
This score makes the hospital an LGBTQ+ healthcare equality leader. So
Wow.
we're very proud of.
Okay.
So as UI Health continues to assess its diversity and representation in leadership,
Whoa, diversity and representation in leadership? Okay, now we're talking about hiring and promotion. Oh, yeah, you're saying it really fast. Can you tell us what you're doing to increase diversity in leadership?
we have intentionally sought to recruit and retain talented, diverse, and inclusive leaders among our academic health enterprise.
Okay, so again, just as I said before, you can add as many high-minded notions as you want onto the term and concept of diversity to make it sound like you're doing something exceedingly and more complexly benevolent over time. But you have just told us that in your recruitment, positioning, and hiring process, somewhere in there, you are assessing their quote-unquote diversity. Okay? So it doesn't matter what came before that point, and it doesn't matter what came after that point, because that point is where the discrimination took place. That point is where you violated someone's civil rights and weighted race or gender or orientation over merit. You just said it. I would love to hear how that goes behind closed doors.
In fact, I see her in the audience today. This summer, Ronnie Morrison was named Chief Diversity and Community Health Equity Officer.
Okay, so you assessed her for the position at some point on the basis of what she is. Not who she is, not what she can do, not what skills she possesses. At some point, you placed her into this position under a consideration of what she is. Got it.
For the University of Illinois Hospital and Clinics. This is a newly created position.
Yeah, all these positions are newly created that seem a heck of a lot like virtue signaling window dressing and not actually accomplishing anything. But I don't know. You tell me. What are her responsibilities? What is she tasked with doing?
And is intended to establish and lead the hospital's diversity and anti-racism activities. In addition, Ronnie will serve as the lead community liaison between the hospital and the many aspects of healthcare issues affecting the communities we serve.
What does that mean?
This role will include care coordination and community relationships with leadership responsibilities.
It sounds like PR. It sounds like public engagement officer or something. What is... If you're putting diversity into the title somewhere, we know what your focus is. And if you considered that in the process of hiring this person, I think you may have. Again, not a legal expert, but I'm just saying the law is pretty clear. You may have violated the law if you hired her on the basis of her race or her gender or her orientation to fill some quota, to fill some window dressing role. If you're focused on aesthetics in this process, I don't know what to tell you.
And finally, the UIC Urban Health Program was established in 1978. It leads the country and is a recognized national leader.
Okay.
It was in a response to Illinois legislative mandate to the University of Illinois to recruit and support students for underrepresented minority groups into degree and professional programs leading to healthcare careers.
Okay, so since the 70s, your college has been singling people out on the basis, first and foremost, of what they look like for opportunities and resources. Okay.
The ultimate goal of the program was and continues to be to train a cadre of underrepresented health professionals dedicated to addressing persistent health disparities in minority populations and improving the quality and availability of healthcare in underserved urban areas.
While also building a $20 million welcoming atrium, right?
The UI Health Urban Health Program is a comprehensive pipeline program, K through 12, undergraduate, pre-health, graduate, and professional schools.
Which inherently discriminates in who it's going to provide these opportunities to, right?
That recruits and supports students pursuing careers in health professions, including allied health, dentistry, medicine, nursing, pharmacy, public health, social work, research, and academia.
On the basis of their race or ethnicity or orientation. Okay.
Each health sciences college at UIC has UHP staff and programming.
Uh-huh.
So once again, I will thank you for your time today. I want to make it clear once again that as the Vice Chancellor for Health Affairs, I'm in full support of our anti-racism initiatives and am eager to partner with all members of our university community to advance racial equity.
Okay, well, if you've had, just as an example, if you had this one program in place since the 70s, why do you have work to do? If this has been part and parcel with the college's policies and practices for the last, I'm going to date myself so much here, so was it 50 years or so? Why do you still have a long way to go? Why do you need all this other apparatus? Why do you need a new position in your departments? Why have you been so unsuccessful in achieving the goals that are seemingly still needing to be addressed after decades of these other programs and initiatives? Why are they failing? If you can't describe why they're failing, how do you know these new ones aren't going to retain the same problems that led to the failures of the others? Also, $20 million for a 2-story welcoming atrium. I can't imagine why there might be problems in your decision-making process at this point.
Whether a person engages with our enterprise in the classroom, within a clinic room, research lab, or among any of our locations across the state, they should encounter an inclusive and respectful environment. It is through our collective partnership and listening to the experiences of our colleagues that we can provide a safe, welcoming, and positive experience for all. So thank you, and I now like to turn this over to Karen Coley, our Acting Provost and Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs.
Yay.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. I feel like I need a booster seat right now. I don't know. I should have brought my coat over and sat on it. I'm Karen Colley. I am the acting provost, and today I'm going to tell you a little bit about what Academic Affairs has been doing specifically around promoting inclusive teaching, supporting our students at all levels, and developing faculty from underrepresented groups, as well as how we are trying to recognize the work of many of us in the room.
Faculty from underrepresented groups. Okay.
I see many of you who are dedicated and committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Right.
So I think we all believe that all the things we've been talking about must be infused at all levels of campus.
Which is a horrifying notion given the implications of what you've said so far, but go ahead.
And this requires changing not only the way we think about how and carry out our collective work as individuals and groups, but also our attention to the shifting policies and structures to create shifting policies and structures to create a more inclusive and supportive campus.
And now you'll detail again what the problem is, what your goal is, and how you plan to get there, right?
So I'm going to start by telling you about some of the ways, and I'm going to use one of Amalia's words, we are responding on the road to a culture of true equity and inclusion.
Responding is one of Amalia's words. I mean, I said it just now. Couldn't it have been my word? I don't know.
So I'm going to highlight at first some of the efforts we've made to promote inclusive teaching in response to some of the questions on classroom climate. So the UIC Center for the Advancement of Teaching Excellence has developed a variety of teaching toolkits and guides for instructors, including one guide on inclusive equity-minded teaching practices. And that's available to everybody on their website. And in addition, in collaboration with the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Engagement, they will be offering an inclusive education scholars certificate program starting in the spring.
Wow.
The Howard Hughes Medical Institute inclusive.
Sorry, when I hear Howard Hughes and medical, I don't think about the healthiest lifestyle. I don't know why that is. I'm sure that the money Howard Hughes put forward for medical care and everything else is perfectly fine, but I can't help but think about Howard Hughes and health quality in a very, very bizarre image in my head. But anyway.
Excellence Initiative is one of several grants focused on impacting UIC's institutional culture regarding the value of teaching. And this is a really exciting effort that started in 2018 and has served as a catalyst for changing culture.
Okay, so it's been going on for, excuse me, 4 years. So you've had 4 years, all right?
It involves 3 liberal arts and sciences STEM departments, and these individuals in these departments have been redesigning course materials to enhance the academic success of their underrepresented and non-traditional students, and also providing faculty development to encourage culturally sensitive teaching.
I have no idea what that means, but it sounds like you're assessing your students' needs on the basis of what they look like. So.
And finally, UIC has also initiated programming to build a cadre of equity-minded future faculty through our participation in the National Center for the Integration of Research, Teaching, and Learning, or CERTL, that offers grad students and postdocs workshops and courses on implementing evidence-based teaching practices for diverse learners.
What does that mean?
Another series of questions was all around supporting our students and building future faculty from underrepresented groups.
Building future faculty from underrepresented groups. Tell me more.
So as Bob even started right at the end of his commentary, we have many programs directed at supporting trainees and developing new faculty. And some programs start as early as high school, and as Bob just educated me, even before high school, including the Urban Health Program and the UIC, some programs out of the UIC Cancer Center and College of Medicine in general. There's a number of programs for transfer students, postbac scholars, and undergraduates from underrepresented groups. And these introduce these individuals to the possibility of research and the possibility of being faculty.
What does individualism have to do with it? You're talking about demographics. You don't care about the individual. You care about the aesthetic. Are you listening to yourself right now? I mean, the head guy at the beginning, the chancellor or whatever, he says that racism is not allowed or tolerable at UIC. And yet, even himself and every subsequent speaker has talked nothing but discriminating on the basis of race. Are you listening to yourselves?
These include programs such as the Bridge to the Baccalaureate program, the UIC Portal to Biomedical Research Careers Post-Bac Research Education Program, and a number of undergraduate research programs like the Summer Research Opportunities Program, the Las Ganas Program that focuses on Hispanic STEM students, and the DuSable Scholars Program that focuses on Black and Native American STEM students.
Right. Okay. Great. Thanks. Thank you, Ms. Tickletrunk. Visual projects like atriums are done to acquire donor money in order to enshrine their names into the building and open them up for future donations. And I understand. I understand what the purpose is. It doesn't make it right. And I know that I have a feeling that you probably, I mean, I'm not a mind reader, but I'm assuming, setting aside what the quote unquote pragmatic reason for the atrium is on a rational level, you know, that's not an argument for it in my opinion. It just isn't. I know why they do it. That just doesn't wash with me. $20 million, you know, just to show off, to make it fancy, you know, to set your footprints in the sands of time, so to speak, in the urban landscape, whatever. Like this is the John Johnson atrium of health equity or something, right? It's a waste. It's a waste, and it's ridiculous. These guys are talking about distributing resources to those who need it, underserved communities, and so on. And then $20 million on that. It's just, and Mr. Tippleton, thank you. Yeah, explanation, not argument for nature. No, I understand. I was stumbling over myself there for a second because I was falling into the trap of just assuming to know what your opinion was, and I don't know what your opinion was. I could take a guess, but I would only be guessing. So no, I don't think you're making an argument for, you're making an explanation. I understood that. Appreciate it. Thank you so much for your generosity and everybody else. I mean, of everything else that they've said, here's the thing. Everything that they've said so far on a policy, leadership, decision-making process or basis for their programs and all this, it's very boilerplate DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion stuff. It's nothing I haven't heard before. It just constantly amazes me, morbidly entertains me, and bewilders me that on the one hand they can say, oh, we're here for anti-racism. We don't tolerate racism on this campus. Now, let me tell you about our programs that are specifically constructed to service only these racial demographics. It just, I don't know how they walk through the world and keep these competing and conflicting notions in their heads without having constant migraines. I really don't. And thank you again, Mr. Tickletrunk, for the happy, smiley, lovely dog cat fox. Oh, dog cat fox.
Wow-wee! Wow! Wow!
That was a drunken uncle dog cat fox. So thank you so much again, Mr. Tickletrunk. Okay, we are coming up at just a few minutes before the end, the bottom of the hour, as it were, and where I usually call these things. I'm going to let her go for a little bit longer. I'm going to see what she has to say. Maybe at least finish up her segment before I close things up, if she doesn't take too long, and then we'll wrap things up, I think.
I have to toot my own other horn a little bit. The UIC Graduate College also provides a number of fellowships dedicated to students from underrepresented groups. And I have to highlight the Pipeline to an Inclusive Faculty program that is designed for outstanding scholars who are dedicated to careers in the academy.
So an inclusive environment made up of people that you've chosen on the basis of what they look like. Got it.
And these are in all disciplines, not just STEM. It seems we're very STEM heavy on some of these programs, but not that one. There are two other programs at UIC that are explicitly designed to diversify the academic workforce. And
diversify the academic workforce. Okay, you guys have fallen entirely outside of any affirmative action arguments at this point. Now you're talking about employment at a federally funded institution. All right, tell me more about your employment policies involving diversity at a federally funded institution.
one is the Institutional Research and Academic Career Development, or ARACTA program. That's a collaboration between the College of Medicine, College of Pharmacy, and Governor State University. And its intent is to develop a diverse group of highly trained scientists to join the academic workforce. And of course, our the most outstanding program is the Bridge to the Faculty program that's sponsored by the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Engagement. And this it's aimed to, and it did, attract promising scholars from underrepresented groups to UIC. And it has allowed us to make tremendous headway in diversifying our faculty, and especially in departments with no or few faculty from underrepresented groups.
Okay, well, she said it here. So just for those of you that care, or anybody else in the future that might be coming across this, they are hiring people on the basis of their aesthetic. And go to the Civil Rights Act and the employment laws under Title VI, if I'm not completely forgetting myself, and Title VII as well. I think Title VII is the federally funded part of it. I could be, if I'm off, I apologize. It's one, the other, or both. And tell me, of the elements that you are not allowed to consider in the course of employment, which ones did they use to make these decisions based on context clues and everything else? You know, because when she says talented, talent is at best a secondary consideration. It is, again, it is amazing to me. They're not even listening to themselves. They're so proud of themselves for being so racially discriminatory, sexually discriminatory. It's amazing. But this isn't a campus where we tolerate racism of any kind, or discrimination of any kind. We have to change the culture. And how are we going to change the culture to avoid racism? Here's our programs. We're hiring people on the basis of what they look like. You know, because obviously there weren't enough people in this department who looked right before we did this. Let's just listen to that one last part again, the one little bit
Native
again.
American STEM students. I have to like toot my own other horn a little bit. The UIC Graduate College also provides a number of fellowships dedicated to students from underrepresented groups. And I have to highlight the Pipeline to an Inclusive Faculty program that is designed for outstanding scholars who are dedicated to careers in the academy. And these are in all disciplines, not just STEM. It seems we're very STEM heavy on some of these programs, but not that one. There are two other programs that
Before I let her continue there, thank you so much, Sir Adamantine. Hi, Scribe, wishing you well from the Celestial something something. Well, it's Sir Adamantine's House of Celestial Sins on the moon within the city of Crater Valley, who constantly clashes with Space Marshal Dirk McGuffin, who oversees safety in Crater Valley on the moon. I haven't recited the lore of Crater Valley and Moonbase in so long, but it's still right there, burned into my memory. As soon as you appear, it all comes rushing back. Thank you, Sir Adamantine.
UIC that are explicitly designed to diversify the academic workforce. And one is the Institutional Research and Academic Career Development, or IRACTA program. That's a collaboration between the College of Medicine, College of Pharmacy, and Governor State University. And its intent is to develop a diverse group of highly trained scientists to join the academic workforce. And of course, our the most outstanding program is the Bridge to the Faculty program that's sponsored by the Office of Diversity, Equity, and Engagement. And this it's aimed to, and it did, attract promising scholars from underrepresented groups to UIC. And it has allowed us to make tremendous headway in diversifying our faculty, and especially in departments with no or few faculty from underrepresented groups. And with only 3 cohorts, we've already transitioned 11 scholars, postdocs, to faculty positions at different departments at UIC. So I think we need a real hand for this one.
Yes. Congratulations. You have increased racial discrimination in your institution systematically. You are practicing systemic racism, and you're applauding yourself for this. You're assessing the value and worth of the academic staff at your university, first and foremost, on their aesthetic. And then saying, oh no, the aesthetic is not correct. We must increase our quality through non-determinative factors of people we will bring in to make ourselves feel better so we can pat ourselves on the back for how inclusive we are. Okay, I think that's enough. I think I might have had enough. For the record, 33:40 on the timestamp there for the video. I don't know if I'll do a part 2. I don't know if there's much else to gain from this except more rolling of my eyes and so on. But for those of you that might have been interested in what's going on at the University of Illinois at Chicago in regards to racial equity, this is what we have so far. For those of you in the future, let me know in the comments if you'd like me to do a part 2. I'd be glad to do so at some point. Might not be on the next Sunday stream, might do it midweek. But I'm open to that. But in the meantime, what do you guys have to say about it? If you have any comments you'd like to throw out there, throw them into the chat now, and I will see what I can do. Lexi Mads, I looked up how legal this shit is, and they're allowed to do this under Title IX if they meet certain conditions. If we're talking about students, yeah, maybe, depending. But they're talking about like employing faculty, moving people from one role to another. And that's the part where I'm not sure how that applies. Because they accept federal funds, and when they start bringing people on as employees of the school, not in distributing resources for the sake of fairness in gender equality and things like that. Like you can't restrict resources or like opportunities for athletics or other things from people on the basis of what they look like. When you start bringing people into the workforce, she said workforce, not students. And I again, I don't know if that makes it completely different or sets that into a different legal category, but that's where my mind goes. So if there's something that says that faculty and staff are also somehow protected in decision-making processes on the basis of race or gender orientation or some of these other factors under Title IX, if that's the case, well, then I must be wearing, orthopedic shoes because I stand corrected. That's the joke I was looking for. So that's what I want to know. When she starts saying workforce, does that change it? Maybe. Let's see. Mike R says, I thought of an institution that took federal funds, you weren't allowed to do this shit. Again, it depends on what they're talking about. If they're talking about, like, if you have a school that doesn't have a football program for girls, right? They specifically do not have a football program. There's only a football program for boys. Okay. That's a violation of, as far as I understand it, Title IX, one of the most basic ones. So you have to have programs and opportunities unrestricted from the student body on the basis of those kind of considerations. All right. You cannot have programs or activities that are disallowed to any particular demographic just because they are a demographic. And I'm putting it very simple terms, so on. I don't know if Title IX gives coverage to academic institutions on the basis of employment in some way. That's the part I'm not sure about. Let's see, some Nemnial Nation. This is just a giant circle jerk. Only questions, comments from the audience could contain anything of value. Up to you. Maybe. It's possible. So yeah, maybe I'll do a part 2 on Tuesday or something, or we'll see. It won't be a Thursday or a Sunday. Those are dedicated days for other things, but we'll see. I might do a follow-up. Let's see. Absolutely degenerate. Don't know why I thought this was in Canada for some reason. Well, it's probably all of the, red and white stuff there. I mean, Canada or Japan, maybe. I don't know. You get confused. There wasn't a maple leaf to be seen as far as I know. Let's see. Let's see. Mike R., you aren't there committing a federal offense. Okay, I'm missing something here. Sorry. Let's see. Leximans, affirmative action includes employment, apparently. Does it? Really? Okay, well, if that is so, and just for the record, I'm perfectly fine in being called out for being wrong on something. But affirmative action in schools also applies to employment. Is that so? If that is so, then, well, I still think it's wrong. I still think it's a violation of the law as written, because I think affirmative action is wrong as compared to federal law as written. So if that is the case, if currently affirmative action policies and procedures and allowances give schools the ability to discriminate their employment decisions on the basis of race for the sake of diversity, then okay, I was mistaken. At least in the sense of not knowing that affirmative action gives them the proverbial cover for that. However, fundamentally to federal law, I find that to be incorrect and likely unconstitutional. Obviously, as I said earlier, affirmative action is before the Supreme Court for a ruling in the next few months. Now, the ruling might be very narrow and not outright ban affirmative action or call affirmative action as a policy unconstitutional. That's entirely possible. But if that is the case, I'll be very curious again to see what the Supreme Court's decision, what effect that will have on these policies, on these procedures, and if there'll be any reverse opportunities to charge schools or bring lawsuits against schools that continue to practice these things after the fact. That's what I'm curious about. Let's see. Lexi Mads, I know it's Wikipedia, but it is cited, and Lexi gives us a link, affirmative action in the United States. Okay, well, then let me, again, for the record, if this college, if this institution is operating these programs under the veil of affirmative action in the workforce aspect of it, in the student body and all that kind of thing, yeah, I get that. That's been happening. But if that also covers employment in these areas, even for federally funded institutions, well, then that is a revelation to me. And if that's the case, okay, I will keep that in mind as I look at these kind of things going forward. But as well, now it's even more interesting to me as to what the outcome from the Supreme Court will be and what it will have on institutions such as this. I'll have to come back. If the Supreme Court rules against affirmative action in such a way that it makes affirmative action unconstitutional, I'll be curious to come back and see if the University of Illinois at Chicago makes any kind of announcement or any kind of public declaration of a change in policy in order to conform to new federal guidelines. I'll be curious to see if that happens. Now that we have this as a baseline, I'll have to find out in the future if they come up with a plan to address the problem of past bad behavior. But let's see. Here we go. Lexi Matz. If an institution has historical racial disparities, they are allowed to fix the disparity. Okay, so both in student population and employees. Okay. Mike Savage. So legalize discrimination, at least at the state level, such an easy thing to abuse against those whom you deem unworthy due to race, sex, etc. Well, it always comes back to me to the basic principles of the Civil Rights Act and what it was meant to be doing in the first place. The kinds of things that we are not supposed to be assessing people on in this country for opportunities and just treatment. And they talk about having an anti-racist philosophy at this college. And they talk about not permitting racism of any kind or discrimination of any kind in the college. So even if they have the legal cover of affirmative action, what they are doing flies in the face of their statement of principle completely, which is inherent. I mean, it is a microcosm representing the conflict between the idea of affirmative action and the Civil Rights Act. One of these two things cannot survive if the other one is meant to exist. That's sort of in my head. And I keep thinking that of the two, affirmative action is going to fall by the wayside at some point. Because it's going to be really difficult for somebody to argue that the Civil Rights Act needs to be struck down or something. But anyway, everybody, I'm going to call it here. I might do a part 2 follow-up on this in the near future. Let me know in the comments if you'd like me to, if you have interest in it. I'm on the fence. I could go either way. But beyond that, if you'd like to hear more from me, you can find me here Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern for another episode of TED Excellence. And boy, oh boy, have I got a selection to choose from between now and then. A few have come out in the last several days since the last one that I'm going to have a competition in my own mind for which one to do next. Beyond that, though, I want to thank you all for joining me. Thank you so much for your interaction and your attention. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things. Even though everyone here is so well behaved, you have very little to do. Everybody who donated either to myself or to the GoFundMe's at the top of the chat box, thank you so much for your generosity. I really do appreciate it. A quick plug / shill for a friend of mine. You may know Sinatra Says. And if you don't know Sinatra Says, this is him.
Wow. Wow.
Sinatra Says has a channel, I think either a tertiary channel or maybe it's his fourth one, I don't know. But he has a channel called Sinatra's Speakeasy, where he shows off the mixing of particular cocktails and other liquored fineries and such. And he just had a new video come out yesterday. If you are of a drinking age, and that's the important part, and are interested in such things, go check out Sinatra's Speakeasy on YouTube and say hi and let him know you watch the thing, even if you don't like it, or tell him he's a bad bartender. I don't know. Just, give him some attention. He needs it. He deserves it. Sure, why not? Anyway, everyone, thank you so much for joining me. Hope you all had a good time. Hope you all have a good rest of your Sunday and a rest of your weekend. Hope you have an excellent week ahead of you. I hope you are all safe and well. If you are not well, please get well soon, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.